Beloved soul. Wait. Do not rush past this moment. Because tonight's message begins with something unusual. Not a warning. Not a prediction. Not a promise. A conversation. A quiet conversation. One that most people never stop long enough to hear. Take a deep breath. Let the noise fade. Allow yourself a moment of stillness. Because what Archangel Michael is about to reveal may explain something your heart has been wondering for a very long time. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, there are moments when people search everywhere for answers while ignoring the wisdom already trying to reach them. Pause. Read those words again. Slowly. Because somebody listening right now needed that reminder. Think about your recent journey. The questions you've carried. The uncertainty you've felt. The goals you've postponed. The dreams you've placed on hold. The plans you've quietly stopped believing in. Not because they disappeared. Not because they became impossible. But because life became loud. Responsibilities became louder. Worries became louder. Distractions became louder. And eventually, the voice of wisdom became difficult to hear. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, clarity rarely shouts. Most often, it whispers. Think about that. Because many people expect life-changing answers to arrive dramatically. A giant sign. A perfect opportunity. An unmistakable moment. Yet some of the most important realizations arrive quietly. During reflection. During prayer. During honest conversations. During moments when the world finally becomes still enough to listen. Archangel Michael says. My beloved child, some doors remain unnoticed not because they are hidden, but because attention is elsewhere. Pause there. Because attention matters. What you focus on repeatedly influences what you notice. What you notice influences what you believe. What you believe influences what you do. And what you do influences where you go. That is why awareness is powerful. Perhaps there is something valuable standing near you right now. An opportunity to grow. A lesson to learn. A habit to improve. A perspective to change. Yet because life moves quickly, it remains overlooked. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, sometimes the greatest opportunity is not something new entering your life. It is finally recognizing what was already there. Feel that deeply. Because that truth changes everything. Many people spend years waiting for a different future. Meanwhile, they already possess lessons. Strength. Wisdom. Experience. Relationships. Opportunities. They simply have not fully recognized their value. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, gratitude reveals treasures that distraction often overlooks. Think about that. How many lessons have strengthened you? How many challenges taught you something valuable? How many moments prepared you for who you are becoming? More than you realize. Perhaps that is why this message found you tonight. Not to create urgency. Not to create fear. Not to promise outcomes. But to invite awareness. To encourage reflection. To remind you that growth remains possible. You may notice the QR code on your screen or the link in the first comment and description. For some viewers, it becomes a meaningful place to continue reflecting on these messages, explore prayer resources, connect with the community, or discover additional encouragement connected with the channel. Others simply continue their reflection privately. Both choices can be meaningful when approached sincerely and intentionally. Because growth often begins when people create space to listen. Archangel Michael says. My beloved child, wisdom grows where reflection is welcomed. And that is why some viewers choose to visit the reflection resources linked below. Not from pressure. Not because anyone expects them to, but because they enjoy continuing their faith journey, connecting with encouraging messages, or supporting content that inspires them. Others simply stay with the message itself. Both approaches are valuable when they come from sincerity. Stay close. Because we are only beginning. There is one hidden assumption that quietly influences confidence, opportunities, relationships, and future decisions more than most people realize. And until it becomes visible, it continues shaping life from behind the scenes. You may once again notice the QR code or the link below, where some viewers continue exploring prayer reflections, community discussions, and encouraging resources connected with these messages. Many find it meaningful. Others simply continue reflecting in their own way. Both paths are equally valid. But do not leave yet. Because Part 2 reveals the invisible assumption that silently influences confidence, decisions, and possibilities, and why recognizing it changes everything. Backhand index pointing right. Comment this word if this message reached your spirit. Listen. Backhand index pointing right, and if you are ready for the next section, comment. Part 2. Because Part 2 reveals the hidden assumption that quietly shapes expectations and influences the direction of your future. Part 2, the assumption that quietly shapes what you expect from life. Beloved soul. Stay here. Because what we are about to discuss is something so subtle that most people never recognize it. They feel its effects. They live with its consequences. They experience its influence every day. Yet they rarely stop long enough to identify it. Pause. Take a slow breath. Allow yourself a moment of stillness. Because tonight we are talking about assumptions. Not assumptions about other people. Not assumptions about circumstances. Assumptions about yourself. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, many people are not limited by reality. They are limited by assumptions they accepted without questioning. Think about that carefully. Because assumptions become powerful when they remain invisible. A person assumes they are incapable. They stop trying. A person assumes growth is impossible. They stop learning. A person assumes opportunities never appear. They stop looking. The assumption becomes a lens. And eventually, the lens influences everything they see. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, what you expect often influences what you notice. Pause there. Because somebody listening needed that reminder. Imagine two people entering the same room. One expects rejection. One expects connection. Both observe the same environment. Yet their experiences become different. Why? Because expectation influences attention. Attention influences interpretation. Interpretation influences action. And action influences outcomes. That cycle quietly shapes lives every day. Archangel Michael says, my beloved child, before a belief changes your future, it first changes your focus. Think about that. How many opportunities remain unnoticed because attention is focused elsewhere? How many blessings remain unappreciated because expectations became negative? How many lessons remain unlearned because assumptions convinced someone they already knew the answer? More than most people realize. That is why awareness matters. Awareness interrupts assumptions. Awareness creates questions. Awareness creates clarity. And clarity creates freedom. Perhaps that is why this message found you tonight. Not to reveal a hidden secret. Not to predict tomorrow. Not to create urgency. But to help you notice something that may have been influencing your perspective for years. Because perspective influences direction. And direction influences the future. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, when perspective changes, possibilities often become visible. Feel that deeply. Because possibility matters. Not because possibility guarantees outcomes. Because possibility creates movement. Movement creates experience. Experience creates wisdom. Wisdom creates confidence. And confidence creates courage. That process changes lives. Not overnight. Not dramatically. Gradually. One lesson at a time. One realization at a time. One decision at a time. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, every meaningful transformation begins with awareness. Pause there. Because awareness is powerful. The moment you recognize a limiting belief, you can challenge it. The moment you recognize a negative pattern, you can change it. The moment you recognize an unhealthy assumption, you can replace it with a healthier perspective. That is why awareness creates opportunity. Opportunity to grow. Opportunity to learn. Opportunity to improve. Opportunity to become wiser. And wisdom influences everything. Think about your own life. How many lessons have you learned through experience? How many challenges made you stronger? How many setbacks taught valuable wisdom? How many unexpected moments changed your perspective? Those experiences matter. Because wisdom gained through experience remains valuable long after the experience ends. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, every lesson learned becomes part of the strength you carry forward. Feel that deeply. Because strength is not created only through success. Strength is often developed through perseverance. Through learning. Through patience. Through growth. And perhaps that growth has already been happening inside you. Even when you could not fully see it. Archangel Michael says, my beloved child, some of the most important progress happens beneath the surface. Think about a seed beneath the soil. For a season, nothing appears visible. Yet roots are growing. Strength is developing. Preparation is happening. Eventually, what was hidden becomes visible. Perhaps your own journey has been following the same pattern. More wisdom. More understanding. More patience. More resilience. All developing quietly. You may notice the QR code on your screen or the link in the first comment and description. For some viewers, it becomes a meaningful opportunity to continue reflecting on these messages, explore prayer resources, connect with encouraging community discussions, or find additional faith-centered content connected with the channel. Others simply continue their personal reflection and prayer privately. Both choices can be meaningful when approached sincerely and intentionally. Because reflection creates awareness. Awareness creates wisdom. Wisdom creates better decisions. And better decisions influence the future. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, wisdom often grows when people create space to listen. That is one reason some viewers choose to explore the resources linked below. Not because they are required to. Not because anyone expects them to. But because they enjoy continuing their reflection, connecting with encouraging messages, or participating in a community focused on faith and growth. Others prefer quiet reflection on their own. Both approaches can be meaningful. Because genuine growth is personal. And personal growth requires intention. You may once again notice the QR code or the link below. For some people it provides access to prayer pages, reflection resources, supportive community discussions, and additional encouraging content that expands on these themes. Others continue reflecting privately. Both paths are valuable when chosen freely and sincerely. But stay close. Because we have not reached the deepest realization yet. There is one belief that quietly determines whether confidence grows stronger, or slowly fades away. And once that belief becomes visible, you will begin seeing yourself, your challenges, and your future in an entirely different way. Backhand index pointing right, comment this word if this message reached your spirit. Awareness. Backhand index pointing right, and if you are ready for the next section, comment. Part 3. Because Part 3 reveals the hidden belief that influences confidence, courage, and possibility more than almost anything else, and why recognizing it changes everything. Part 3. The belief that quietly decides whether confidence grows or disappears. Beloved soul, stay with me. Because this part reaches deeper than assumptions. Deeper than habits. Deeper than expectations. Tonight we are talking about belief. Not belief about circumstances. Not belief about other people. Not belief about the future. Belief about yourself. Pause. Take a slow breath. Allow yourself a moment of complete stillness. Because what Archangel Michael is about to reveal may explain far more than you realize. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, one of the most powerful forces shaping your life is the belief you carry about your own potential. Think about that carefully. Because every decision begins somewhere. Every action begins somewhere. Every dream begins somewhere. Every goal begins somewhere. They begin with belief. A person who believes growth is possible continues learning. A person who believes improvement is possible continues practicing. A person who believes opportunities exist continues searching. But when belief disappears, movement often disappears with it. Not because possibility vanished. Because expectation changed. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, never underestimate how much influence your beliefs have over your direction. Pause there. Because somebody listening needed those exact words. Think back to a challenge you once thought was impossible. Perhaps it was a skill. A responsibility. A difficult season. A major decision. At first, it felt overwhelming. Yet somehow, you learned. You adapted. You improved. You overcame. And today, what once felt impossible feels familiar. Why? Because growth happened. Not instantly. Gradually. One lesson at a time. One attempt at a time. One experience at a time. Archangel Michael says. My beloved child, many limits exist only until learning begins. Think about that. How many abilities once seemed out of reach? How many lessons once seemed difficult? How many situations once seemed impossible to navigate? Yet experience changed everything. Experience created wisdom. Wisdom created confidence. Confidence created courage. And courage created progress. That process quietly transforms lives. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, confidence rarely appears before action. Confidence often grows because of action. Feel that deeply. Because many people wait. They wait to feel ready. They wait to feel certain. They wait to feel confident. Yet confidence often arrives after movement begins. A conversation creates confidence. A lesson creates confidence. A challenge overcome creates confidence. A new experience creates confidence. And over time, confidence becomes stronger than fear. Perhaps that is exactly what has been happening in your own journey. Maybe you are wiser than you were before. Maybe you are stronger than you were before. Maybe you understand things differently now. Maybe you handle challenges differently now. Those changes matter. Because growth matters. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, never ignore the evidence of your own growth. Pause there. Because many people spend years focusing on what remains unfinished. Meanwhile, they overlook everything they already accomplished. The lessons learned. The strength gained. The wisdom developed. The resilience built. Those things deserve recognition. Not because they make you perfect. Because they prove growth is happening. And growth creates possibility. Think about a tree. Nobody notices its growth every day. Yet year after year, it becomes stronger, taller, more established, more resilient. The same is true for people. Growth often happens quietly. Until one day, you look back and realize how much has changed. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, some of the most meaningful progress becomes visible only when you pause long enough to look back. Feel that deeply. Because reflection reveals growth. Reflection reveals lessons. Reflection reveals blessings. Reflection reveals perspective. And perspective changes everything. You may notice the QR code on your screen or the link in the first comment and description. For some viewers, this becomes a meaningful place to continue reflecting on these messages, explore prayer resources, connect with encouraging community discussions, or discover additional faith-centered content connected with the channel. Others simply continue their personal reflection and prayer privately. Both approaches can be meaningful when chosen sincerely and intentionally. Because meaningful growth often begins with reflection. Reflection creates awareness. Awareness creates wisdom. Wisdom creates better decisions. And better decisions influence the future. Archangel Michael says, my beloved child, wisdom grows where reflection is welcomed. That is one reason some viewers enjoy exploring the resources linked below. Not because they are required to. Not because anyone expects them to. But because they appreciate continuing their reflection, engaging with encouraging content, or connecting with a supportive community focused on growth and faith. Others prefer quiet reflection in their own way. Both paths can be valuable. Because growth is personal. And personal growth requires intention. You may once again notice the QR code or the link below. For some people it provides access to prayer pages, reflection resources, supportive discussions, and additional encouraging messages connected with this journey. Others continue their reflection privately. Both choices can be meaningful when approached freely and sincerely. But stay close. Because we have not yet reached the turning point. There is something extraordinary that begins entering life when wisdom becomes stronger than fear and possibility becomes stronger than limitation. And once you understand that shift, you will never look at challenges, opportunities, or growth in the same way again. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, the moment wisdom takes the lead, new possibilities begin appearing where fear once saw only obstacles. That revelation changes everything. Backhand index pointing right. Comment this word if this message reached your spirit. Believe. Backhand index pointing right, and if you are ready for the next section, comment. Part 4. Because Part 4 reveals what begins entering your life when wisdom takes the lead and fear no longer controls your direction, and why that realization changes everything. Part 4. What begins changing the moment wisdom takes the lead. Beloved soul. Stay close. Because this part is where many pieces begin connecting together. The lessons. The reflections. The questions. The moments of uncertainty. The moments of growth. Everything we have discussed so far leads here. Pause. Take a slow breath. Allow yourself to become fully present. Because tonight we are talking about something many people spend years searching for. Clarity. Not perfect certainty. Not complete answers. Not a detailed map of the future. Clarity. And clarity changes everything. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, wisdom does not always reveal the entire road ahead. It often reveals the next step. Think about that carefully. Because many people become stuck waiting for complete certainty. They want every answer. Every outcome. Every detail. Every guarantee. Before they move. Before they try. before they trust. Yet life rarely works that way. Most meaningful journeys begin with one step. Then another. Then another. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, faith often grows while walking, not while standing still. Pause there. Because somebody listening needed those exact words. Think back over your own life. How many important lessons were learned only after you began? How many opportunities appeared only after movement started? How many answers arrived only after action was taken? More than you realize. Because movement creates experience. Experience creates wisdom. Wisdom creates confidence. Confidence creates courage. And courage creates possibility. That process quietly transforms lives. Archangel Michael says, my beloved child, many opportunities remain hidden from those who refuse to take the first step. Think about that. A person may never discover their ability because they never try. A person may never discover their strength because they avoid challenges. A person may never discover new possibilities because fear convinces them to stay where they are. Not because growth is unavailable. Because movement never began. Yet tonight, perhaps something is changing. Perhaps perspective is expanding. Perhaps possibilities are becoming visible. Perhaps confidence is quietly returning. Not because circumstances suddenly changed. Because wisdom is growing. And wisdom changes perspective. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, when perspective changes, opportunities often become easier to recognize. Feel that deeply. Because opportunities are not always dramatic. Sometimes they arrive as conversations. Ideas. Lessons. Relationships. Habits. Insights. Small things. Yet small things often create extraordinary outcomes. Think about a seed. It appears insignificant. Small. Ordinary. Easy to overlook. Yet given time, it becomes something remarkable. The same principle applies to life. One lesson can change perspective. One conversation can change direction. One decision can change a future. One moment of awareness can change everything. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, never underestimate the power of a small moment used wisely. Pause there. Because somebody needed that reminder. Many people wait for life-changing events. Meanwhile, life is quietly being shaped by daily choices. Daily habits. Daily thoughts. Daily decisions. Daily attitudes. Those things matter enormously. Because repeated choices create patterns. Patterns create direction. Direction influences outcomes. And outcomes shape futures. That is why wisdom matters. Wisdom helps people recognize what deserves attention. What deserves energy. What deserves patience. What deserves effort. And what should be released. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, peace often grows when people stop carrying what was never theirs to carry. Think about that. How much energy is spent worrying about things that cannot be controlled? How much attention is spent revisiting mistakes that cannot be changed? How much peace is sacrificed trying to predict every possible outcome? More than most people realize. Yet wisdom teaches something important. Focus on what can be learned. Focus on what can be improved. Focus on what can be influenced. And release what cannot. That shift creates freedom. Archangel Michael says, my beloved child, wisdom creates peace because wisdom knows where attention belongs. Feel that deeply. Because attention is valuable. Every day you choose where it goes. Toward fear or growth. Toward gratitude or frustration. Toward possibility or limitation. Toward learning or assumption. Those choices matter. Because what repeatedly receives attention often becomes stronger. You may notice the QR code on the screen or the link in the first comment and description. For some viewers, this becomes a meaningful place to continue reflecting on these messages, explore prayer resources, connect with encouraging community discussions, or discover additional content connected with the channel. Others continue their reflection privately. Both approaches can be meaningful when chosen sincerely and intentionally. Because meaningful growth often begins when people create space to reflect. Reflection creates awareness. Awareness creates wisdom. Wisdom creates better decisions. And better decisions influence the future. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, growth becomes visible wherever reflection and intention work together. That is one reason some viewers enjoy exploring the resources linked below. Not because they are required to. Not because anyone expects them to. But because they appreciate opportunities to continue reflecting, learning, praying, or engaging with a supportive community. Others choose quiet reflection in their own way. Both paths are valuable. Because growth is personal. And every journey unfolds differently. You may once again notice the QR code or the link below. For some people it provides access to prayer pages, reflection resources, encouraging messages, and supportive discussions that continue beyond this video. Others continue their personal reflection right where they are. Both choices can be meaningful when approached freely and sincerely. But stay close. Because Part 5 reveals the daily choice that influences peace, confidence, growth, relationships, and future direction more than almost any other decision. And once you understand it, everything we have discussed will begin connecting together. Backhand index pointing right. Comment this word if this message reached your spirit. Clarity. Backhand index pointing right, and if you are ready for the next section, comment. Part 5. Because Part 5 reveals the daily choice that quietly shapes the future, and explains why understanding it changes everything. Part 5. The daily choice that quietly shapes the future you experience. Beloved soul. Stay here. Do not rush this moment. Because this part may be one of the most important messages in this entire journey. Not because it reveals a secret. Not because it contains hidden knowledge. But because it explains something so simple that many people overlook it completely. Yet it quietly influences nearly everything. Your peace. Your confidence. Your relationships. Your growth. Your decisions. Your future. Pause. Take a deep breath. Allow yourself a moment of complete stillness. Because tonight we are talking about focus. Not ordinary focus. Intentional focus. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, every day you are deciding what will receive your attention, and your attention gradually shapes your direction. Think about that carefully. Because attention is powerful. Far more powerful than most people realize. Whatever consistently receives attention tends to become stronger. A habit receives attention. It grows. A skill receives attention. It improves. A relationship receives attention. It deepens. A goal receives attention. It develops. Even thoughts work the same way. Thoughts repeatedly revisited become familiar. Familiar thoughts influence beliefs. Beliefs influence decisions. Decisions influence direction. And direction influences outcomes. That is why attention matters. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, be careful what receives your focus, because focus quietly influences your future. Pause there. Because somebody listening needed those words. Think about a magnifying glass. Whatever it focuses upon becomes more visible. More noticeable. More significant. The same thing happens in life. If attention constantly focuses on limitations, limitations appear larger. If attention constantly focuses on disappointments, disappointments appear larger. If attention constantly focuses on fear, fear appears larger. Yet if attention focuses on growth, growth becomes visible. If attention focuses on gratitude, blessings become easier to notice. If attention focuses on learning, opportunities become easier to recognize. That realization changes everything. Because suddenly, you understand that perspective is not accidental. Perspective is influenced by focus. Archangel Michael says, "My beloved child, what you repeatedly notice eventually influences what you repeatedly believe." Think about that. How many people spend years reinforcing fear without realizing it? How many spend years reinforcing discouragement? How many spend years reinforcing self-doubt? Not intentionally. Simply because those thoughts received attention. Yet attention can be redirected. That is the good news. Awareness creates choice. Choice creates change. Change creates growth. And growth changes everything. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, every day offers another opportunity to focus on what helps you grow. Feel that deeply. Because growth is not reserved for special people. Growth is available to anyone willing to learn. Anyone willing to reflect. Anyone willing to remain teachable. Perhaps that is why this message found you tonight. Not to predict tomorrow. Not to create urgency. Not to provide guarantees. But to remind you of your ability to choose. The choice to learn. The choice to grow. The choice to remain hopeful. The choice to remain grateful. The choice to continue moving forward. Those choices matter. More than most people realize. Think about a river. One drop of water appears insignificant. Yet millions of drops, moving consistently, can shape landscapes. The same principle applies to life. One wise decision may seem small. Yet repeated daily, it changes direction. One grateful thought may seem small. Yet repeated daily, it changes perspective. One lesson learned may seem small. Yet repeated daily, it changes understanding. And eventually, understanding changes outcomes. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, extraordinary futures are often built through ordinary decisions repeated faithfully. Pause there. Because that truth changes perspective. Many people wait for dramatic transformation. Meanwhile, their future is quietly being shaped by daily habits. Daily priorities. Daily thoughts. Daily actions. Those things seem ordinary. Yet they create extraordinary influence over time. That is why consistency matters. Not perfection. Consistency. Perfection is unrealistic. Consistency is powerful. Learning consistently. Growing consistently. Reflecting consistently. Improving consistently. Those actions create meaningful progress. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, progress is often the result of many small faithful steps. Think about your own journey. You did not learn everything in one day. You did not gain wisdom in one moment. You did not develop resilience overnight. Growth occurred gradually. One lesson. One challenge. One experience. One decision. At a time. And perhaps that process continues even now. Perhaps wisdom is still growing. Perhaps understanding is still growing. Perhaps confidence is still growing. Perhaps purpose is still becoming clearer. Those possibilities remain available. You may notice the QR code on your screen or the link in the first comment and description. For some viewers, this becomes a meaningful place to continue reflecting on these messages, explore prayer resources, connect with encouraging community discussions, or discover additional content related to faith and personal growth. Others simply continue their reflection privately. Both approaches can be meaningful when chosen sincerely and intentionally. Because reflection creates awareness. Awareness creates wisdom. Wisdom creates better decisions. And better decisions influence the future. Archangel Michael says, "My beloved child, wisdom grows wherever people remain willing to listen and learn." That is one reason some viewers appreciate exploring the resources linked below. Not because they are required to. Not because anyone expects them to. But because they enjoy continuing their reflection, prayer, learning, or community connection beyond this message. Others choose private reflection. Both choices are valuable. Because meaningful growth is personal. And every journey unfolds differently. You may once again notice the QR code or the link below. For some people it provides access to reflection pages, prayer resources, supportive discussions, and encouraging messages connected with these themes. Others continue their journey quietly where they are. Both paths can be meaningful when approached freely and sincerely. But stay close. Because only one final truth remains. One truth that connects everything we have discussed. Awareness. Perspective. Wisdom. Growth. Focus. Purpose. Peace. And once that truth becomes clear, you will never see your journey in the same way again. Backhand index pointing right. Comment this word if this message reached your spirit. Focus. Backhand index pointing right, and if you are ready for the conclusion, comment. Final part. Because the final part reveals the truth that transforms temporary inspiration into lasting peace, and explains why your story is more meaningful than you realize. Final part, the truth that changes how you see your story forever. Beloved soul. If you are still here. After every lesson. After every reflection. After every moment of quiet thought. Then perhaps this final message arrived exactly when it was meant to. Not because it contains a hidden secret. Not because it predicts what tomorrow will bring. Not because it offers a shortcut around every challenge. But because it reminds you of a truth that many people forget during difficult seasons. A truth that quietly changes everything once it is fully understood. Pause. Take a slow breath. Allow your thoughts to settle. Because this moment deserves your full attention. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, your story is not being defined only by what happens to you. It is also being shaped by who you become through every experience. Read those words again. Slowly. Carefully. Let them settle into your heart. Because many people measure life only by outcomes. The opportunities gained. The opportunities missed. The goals achieved. The goals delayed. The answers received. The questions that remain. And because they focus only on outcomes, they often overlook something equally important. Growth. They remember the challenge, but forget the strength it created. They remember the delay, but forget the patience it developed. They remember the disappointment, but forget the wisdom it produced. They remember the uncertainty, but forget the resilience it strengthened. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, every season leaves something valuable behind for those willing to learn. Pause there. Because somebody listening needed exactly those words tonight. Think back over your own life. There were moments you thought would never end. Challenges that seemed impossible. Questions that appeared unanswerable. Situations that felt overwhelming. Yet somehow, you continued. One day at a time. One lesson at a time. One step at a time. And today, you carry wisdom that did not exist before. You carry perspective that did not exist before. You carry understanding that did not exist before. Those things matter more than most people realize. Archangel Michael says, "My beloved child, every lesson learned becomes part of the strength you carry into the future." Think about a traveler. The traveler does not gain wisdom only by reaching the destination. Wisdom is gained during the journey. The roads traveled. The mistakes corrected. The lessons learned. The experiences lived. The same principle applies to life. Character develops during the journey. Perspective develops during the journey. Wisdom develops during the journey. Purpose becomes clearer during the journey. That is why every season matters. Even the seasons you would never choose again. Because every season teaches something. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, growth often happens quietly while people are busy looking for dramatic change. Feel that deeply. Because many people overlook gradual growth. A healthier mindset. A wiser response. A stronger habit. A deeper understanding. A calmer perspective. Those things seem small. Yet repeated consistently, they transform lives. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, meaningful futures are often built through small faithful decisions repeated daily. Pause there. Because that truth changes everything. Many people wait for one extraordinary moment. Meanwhile, their future is already being shaped by daily choices, daily priorities, daily habits, daily perspectives. Those things seem ordinary. Yet they create extraordinary outcomes over time. Think about a seed. Nobody sees the growth immediately. Yet beneath the surface, development is happening. Roots are forming. Strength is increasing. Foundations are growing. Eventually, what was hidden becomes visible. Perhaps your own growth has been happening in the same way. More wisdom. More patience. More resilience. More understanding. Even during seasons when progress seemed invisible. That growth matters. Because inner growth eventually influences outer results. You may notice the QR code on the screen or the link in the first comment and description. For some viewers, it becomes a place to continue reflecting on these messages, explore prayer resources, connect with supportive community discussions, or discover additional encouragement connected with the channel. Others simply continue their personal reflection and prayer privately. Both approaches can be meaningful when chosen sincerely and intentionally. Because growth often begins with reflection. Reflection creates awareness. Awareness creates wisdom. Wisdom creates better decisions. And better decisions influence the future. Archangel Michael says, my beloved child, awareness is one of the greatest gifts a person can develop. Think about that. Awareness helps people notice lessons. Awareness helps people recognize opportunities. Awareness helps people understand themselves more clearly. Awareness helps people grow intentionally. And intentional growth changes lives. That is one reason some viewers appreciate exploring the resources linked below. Not because they are required to. Not because anyone expects them to. But because they enjoy continuing their reflection, prayer, learning, or community connection beyond the message itself. Others choose quiet reflection on their own. Both choices are valuable. Because meaningful growth is personal. And every journey unfolds differently. You may once again notice the QR code or the link below. For some people it provides access to prayer pages, reflection resources, encouraging discussions, and additional messages connected with these themes. Others continue reflecting privately. Both paths can be meaningful when approached freely and sincerely. Now listen carefully. Because this is the final truth. You are not your hardest season. You are not your greatest mistake. You are not your deepest fear. You are not your biggest disappointment. Those things are experiences, not identities. You are a person who is still learning, still growing, still becoming, still moving forward. And growth is one of the clearest signs that purpose is still unfolding. That means your story is not finished. Your learning is not finished. Your opportunities are not finished. Your growth is not finished. Perhaps that is why this message found you. To remind you of something you may have forgotten. You have learned before. You have adapted before. You have overcome before. You have grown before. And because of that, you can continue again. One lesson at a time. One decision at a time. One day at a time. Archangel Michael's final words. My beloved child, do not measure your life only by where you stand today. Measure it also by the wisdom, strength, and growth you gained along the way. Take one final deep breath. Look back with gratitude. Look forward with hope. Walk forward with wisdom. Continue learning. Continue growing. Continue becoming. Because your story is still being written. Backhand index pointing right. Comment this word if this message reached your heart. Purpose. Backhand index pointing right, and if this message encouraged you, share it with someone who may need hope today. Because sometimes the right message arrives at exactly the right moment.